What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is going to be about Indiana Senate Bill 121. You may or may not be familiar with this. I'm going to make this video very short, so we're just going to get right into what is Senate Bill 121. The first part of the bill talks specifically about Sugar Creek. Sugar Creek is really like the epicenter of where this problem has originated, but it's taken place in a lot of our little tributaries. And so what we're dealing with are a lot of people that are no longer using things like chubs and suckers and buffalo and you know, a drum, whatever, like everything, even smallmouth, channel cats, whatever. What's actually happening is these people have moved in and they're now using these fish for consumption. Minnows have never really been used as consumption before, so these laws were really not necessary, but now it's gotten to a point where these people are fishing basically on a commercial scale. They're removing bait fish largely from these tributaries. And so Sugar Creek really becomes like the first part of the bill itself, and it reads as follows. Sugar Creek, in quotations, for purposes of IC 14-22-9-3.5, refers to a tributary stream that originates in Tipton County and travels southwest through the following counties before merging in the Wabash River, blah 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 blah. There's 4 counties. The first subsection A here, it says the section does not apply to the following: a bait dealer's license under IC 14-22-16, an individual who possesses a scientific purpose license issues under IC 14-22, whatever. So basically they're saying if you have these things, you're exempt from this regulation. Exempt as provided in subsection C, an individual may not use the following devices to take minnows from a waterway. 1 is a dip net, 2 a cast net, 3 a minnow trap, 4 a minnow seine. Now if you just stopped reading there, you would completely understand why a lot of people got angry. But then it says in subsection C, an individual may use a device described in subsection B to take minnows from a waterway if all of the following conditions are met. Number 1, the individual A, takes only the minnows that can be reasonably used before the end of the day in which the minnows were caught. B, uses the minnows as bait to fish. C, possesses a pole and line needed to fish. D, keeps the minnows near the individual's pole and line. E, returns any unused minnows at the end of the day to the waterway from which the minnows were caught. 2, the minnows that are taken are not transported away from the waterway in which the minnows were caught. Number 3, the waterway from which the minnows were caught is not Sugar Creek. They make it very clear you're not allowed to do basically any of this on Sugar Creek. When you look under the individual part of this and you look at number 2, the minnows that are taken are not transported away from the waterway in which minnows were caught. So 2 really big problems that fishermen are having with this issue is also the state's definition of minnow. They're actually lumping gizzard shad in with that, as well as suckers, as well as anything basically in the minnow family, with the exception of like common carp, for example. But everything else is being lumped in, including gizzard shad and suckers, which are all, neither one of those actually belong to the minnow family. Shad belong to the herring family, and suckers obviously belong to the sucker family. They're not minnow. And so you have a serious issue, a conflict there. This is being pushed on heavily by bass fishermen. Specifically, one group, the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance, is pushing this, but there are others. There are a lot of people that are in support of this. However, I don't think they realized the wave they were making within the catfish world. So myself and a few other individuals really reached out, and we spoke with these people over the phone. We spoke with them over Facebook Messenger. Members from the ICCA, as well as just concerned cat fishermen, reached out as well. And a lot of these people were reaching out to me and reaching out to some of these other individuals. And we've basically spent the last 72 hours on the phone with these people trying to come up with solutions. And they are actually incredibly forthcoming and willing to change the bill. The bill is actually currently being amended by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and we should get that later this week. One of the things that they're holding pretty firm to is the transport of bait. Most of the time, cat fishermen are not catching their bait where they're fishing. A lot of times you catch bait, go home, get the rest of your stuff, and then go fishing. You're basically limited to not being able to get on the road with bait anymore. is what this bill is effectively doing. You're not allowed to transport, to catch your bait from one creek, even if you're moving to another part of the creek to fish. You can't get on the road and transport those fish there, even if it's a quarter mile down the road. If you get caught, you will be cited for it. That's a huge problem for most catfishermen in the state of Indiana, along with the fact that they are lumping gizzard shad and suckers in with this mix. Now, after speaking with these people, we believe we've got them to remove or exempt shad from this list, as well as horny-head creek chubs, which are both fish are a staple of the catfishermen here in Indiana and mostly throughout the Midwest as well. If you want to know what the real underlying problem that has caused all this is, probably a decade ago, maybe a little bit before that, the reason why this topic is so sensitive is because of the current state of our society now and the culture that we live in. It makes it difficult to address these issues. So basically what has happened, we have some people that do not originate from the US. They do not speak our language. They come from several corners of the world. One group in particular is predominantly Asian. And these people they really don't know the law. They really don't understand the laws. And what they're doing is they're basically going out and castnetting these creeks, and they're taking everything. They're literally taking everything, including minnows, and they're taking them out on literally a commercial scale. And they're taking channel cats, they're taking largemouth bass, they're taking smallmouth bass, they're taking everything in the river. This has never really been an issue because Americans don't consume minnows. These people are consuming them. And it really is leaving it open, and because there is no limit on rough fish, and these are all classified as rough fish, obviously with the exception of the bass and the channel cats, but everything else is considered a rough fish, so there's no limit on them. The problem is they have just absolutely decimated these creeks, and so they feel like they need to do something to preserve the ecosystem. And so the fix was, if it's flowing water, you basically are going to levy these restrictions against it. So like your reservoirs and things like that are not privy to it. However, you cannot transport bait to these reservoirs. That is a huge issue because I catch a lot of my bait, and most catfishermen do in fact, in these small creeks, and then we take them places and fish. The reality is that we have a serious issue of people who are not only breaking the law, but people that are they are within the law, but they're taking so many fish that it's literally destroying the fishery. So something has to be done. Hopefully we can work through this. I'll actually be in Danville this weekend at the Indiana Fishing Expo, and I'll be talking with members with the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance. I'll also be talking to Justin Browning and Jeremy Chase. Jeremy Chase owns Chasing Outdoors. He's a fishing outfitter, mostly just catfish. He's a staunch advocate against commercial fishing and pay lakes. Justin Browning, you probably know him if you're involved in this world at all. He's been a guy that's been out against pay lakes, I mean, for probably a decade or more, probably 2 decades. We're going to be meeting with those guys, and we're going to be talking about a lot of issues. If you guys have anything you'd like me to say, like me to talk about, I'd be more than happy to bring it up. However, what this video is about is just to bring awareness to the situation, and really just everybody just needs to kind of calm down. This is by no means the end-all be-all of what's going to happen. There's a significant chance, in fact, this bill will not even pass. So we're just having this conversation for no reason. But there is also a significant chance that it will pass. Like it's definitely possible. Sorry for like this sort of ad hoc thing. I have to go to work here in a few minutes, but I really felt like it was important to get this video out there so everybody can see it. I would like everybody to calm down. There's like a really strong contingency within the catfish world to start using bass as bait, because that's, you know, they're really directing it towards the bass fishermen, and you know, I completely understand their blight in that regard. I have thought about it because, you know, this really does affect us tremendously, and I feel like this was done without any consultation of anyone else except the input of a few creek bass fishermen. You know, I really think it's kind of a nasty little tactic. It's a little overboard in my opinion. I don't think you should be lumping things like shad, for example, into that category. You're really stepping on our toes with that one. There's nowhere that shad are endangered, even in these creeks. We all know how prolific shad are. In fact, it's usually quite the opposite. There's way too many. And so you can see where there's been some resentment. There's a lot of people that are very upset about this. These guys have spent the spent the majority of the last 72 hours talking to angry cat fishermen and people like me. Just, hey man, let's work this through. Let's get a better piece of literature here that is going to go more towards the heart of the issue, rather than punishing a bunch of law-abiding cat fishermen in the state of Indiana. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of people that catfish every year that are going to be affected by this. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a good day. I really appreciate your time, and stay tuned. We'll keep up to date on this, and hopefully we can resolve this issue and everybody gets a little piece of the cake and gets to eat it too. We'll see you guys.